Greetings. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Book Report. November 22nd, 1963. One of those dates that are forever etched in world history as well as American history. Kind of like December 7, 1941 and September the 11th, 2001. If you really want to go back, March the 15th, 44 BC, the Ides of March, when Julius Caesar was assassinated. This year it falls on a Friday, just like it did back in 1963. Now, since history was altered in such a traumatic and wrenching way, there has been so much in the way of questions, theorizing, and just plain, guessing as to why it happened. Why was John F. Kennedy murdered in the streets of Dallas the way he was? What was the motivation? Who benefited? Every question out there. Now, before I go into today's book, a little bit of background I'd like to share. I used to be a correspondent with United Press International back in the 1990s. And in our training manual, in our style manual, were instructions on how to provide stories in certain circumstances. And that included bulletins, that included a flash. These are terms that are not really used properly anymore, but there was a very strict criteria as to how very important news stories would be reported back in the day, and that was in our manual. I still have that manual, too. I refer to it often. I think we had better ways of doing things back in the day, and I still like to adhere to those practices. But the samples we used in that manual were taken right out of the reporting of the Kennedy assassination. That was UPI's great shining moment because our company was the first to report certain things. They did so in a brilliant way. The story of Merriman Smith, who grabbed onto the phone in the press bus and did not let go. That's a story in and of itself. But the thing is that it was ingrained in me many years ago exactly how things happened. And I got to know people who were around at that time in the news business. I even had a very good friend who I believe is listening to this podcast today who was in Dallas when that all came down. So I had a lot of firsthand sources to rely on. But over the years, like everyone else, I was subject to every theory out there as to what really happened and why it really happened. In fact, when I was in high school, I had a history teacher that was one of those obsessive people about who killed Kennedy. So much so that one of my classmates was given permission to bring his Carcano 9138 rifle to school after the principal gave permission. Yes, we were able to do that sort of thing back then, just so everyone could try out to see how well they did compared to Oswald. I'm not joking. We had a rifle that was brought into school, and we could, play with it. A Carcano 9138 is the type of rifle used. It used 6.5 millimeter Carcano ammunition. You can still buy these things. They're still around, and they're not that expensive. But to go back to this has got to be one of the great mysteries of all time, so much so that it has become part of our, shall we say, mythology. Unfortunately, there's a book out there that pops a balloon in just about every single conspiracy theory surrounding the JFK assassination that's ever been cooked up. And that is called Case Closed: Lee Harvey Oswald and the Assassination of JFK. It's a book by one of the better investigative reporters who've been out there for many decades, named Gerald Posner, and it came out in 1993. I bought it shortly after it came out back then. I used to have a hardback copy of it. I don't anymore, but I do have another later version in my library. And this book really woke me up because like a good investigative reporter who did not just rely on other people's work or did not just come up with phrases like the powers that be saw to it that or something like that. This guy is an attorney and an investigative reporter, so he knows how the world works. And way back when, he did an amazing job of finding out exactly what happened. And exactly what happened was a 2-bit punk with a $12 rifle, which is what I've always referred to as Mr. Oswald, killed John F. Kennedy, and he did it all by himself. Now that flies in the face of probably what everybody listening to me now believes. But this guy came up with the best book ever done on the Kennedy assassination, and he blew every conspiracy theory out of the water, and he still does. Conspiracy people absolutely hate this book. But of course, like most people, they never read it. It goes into Oswald's motivation, where he was, how he got his job, his motivation the morning that he went to the book depository, the accuracy of the rifle in question, the magic bullet. It's all there. It's all there. And I put this whole thing to rest myself 30 years ago when I read the book. There's been a couple of revised versions. I think one came out in 2003 and another one a few years ago. But this was basically nothing really changing. This was just his commentary. And one of the more pressing things that he pointed out way back when is he got to go to a JFK conspiracy convention. They were more common back then than they are now because a lot of people have passed on who were into that stuff. And one of the stories that he explained was that at the time, the man who owned the Colt revolver that Jack Ruby used to kill Lee Harvey Oswald was selling bullets that had been fired from it for $500 apiece. A lot of money was made. There's been thousands of books written on this, on the assassination. But he addresses everything. Now, on a personal note, I had the rather horrible experience of having a very close friend murdered under mysterious circumstances. He was a business leader, and it happened in a way that let a lot of people off the hook who were probably going to be in a lot of trouble. Everybody thought he was the victim of an assassination, conspiracy. Everybody thought that so-and-so did it, or this person did it, that person did it, and some of them were public about it. I'm amazed they didn't get sued. But at the end of the day, I got to work with real homicide investigators, and they explained to me, said there's no evidence at the scene of the crime that that's what happened, and that's where it all starts. Now, there's so much in this book, I can't begin to go into everything, but let's just say that what made this book possible was digital enhancement of the Zapruder film, which demonstrated certain things. I will leave you to read that for yourself. And you really have no excuse not to read this book or listen to it. It's available in hardcover still, softcover, and of course Kindle, electronic book format. But I just noticed this morning up on Amazon, if you have an Audible account, you can get it for 99 cents. Wow. I don't know if that's a sale for today or not, but 99 cents, you can get the audiobook and you can listen to it while you commute. I challenge everybody out there, everybody who thinks that JFK was the victim of some elaborate conspiracy, to read this book. Those of you who do, you're going to be hit with a hard, cold reality of life on planet Earth. Sometimes stuff just happens, bad stuff. Lee Harvey Oswald was a punk loser who back in the day, because of the way the law worked, was able to buy a high-powered rifle mail order. Just basically said he was over 21 or 18 or whatever the law was back then, and just bought it and picked it up at a post office box. I do believe he had to show an ID for the pistol. When he picked up the pistol mail order, he had to show who he was. That resulted in a law coming into being in 1968, the Gun Control Act, which made illegal the sale of firearms through the mail, which, if you think about it, that's not such a bad idea. History was changed, ladies and gentlemen, by a worthless piece of garbage. And that's the truth. Now, over the years, people have said there's new evidence, quote unquote, although they're not. There's really no new evidence. People still think there's a memo at the CIA someplace saying, yeah, we got to go kill Kennedy now. Even if that had happened, they wouldn't have put that in writing. And the incoming president, Donald Trump, says he's going to release all of the documentation pertaining to the JFK assassination. I suspect there were certain things that were kept secret, like the fact that he probably collected money from the Cubans when he went to Mexico. And he was such an arrogant SOB, he probably put that on his taxes. That could be a reason there. One of the reasons also that should be pointed out, we were a little more than a year away from the Cuban Missile Crisis that had sobered up the Russians and the Americans like nothing else. And when suddenly this nutcase that the KGB thought was a total loser, worthless bum, had come out as shooting the President of the United States, I think the most horrible place to be would have been at KGB headquarters when they found that out. And wow. They didn't know what was going on. They were totally unprepared. We were very naive back in those days, really, compared to now. Innocent would be a nice way of putting it. If you are interested in expanding your mind and expanding your consciousness and looking at another alternative, which a lot of you are going to fight tooth and nail because, let's face it, conspiracy theorism in many cases is as fanatical as the most destructive of religions. If you are willing, though, to be brave and learn something new, you will pick up a copy of Case Closed, Lee Harvey Oswald and the Assassination of JFK by Gerald Posner. Buy it today on Audible for 99 cents. I don't get any compensation from Audible, by the way, but I just noticed that this morning, and I said, that's cool. Nobody has an excuse now not to learn from this book. Nobody has ever gone through this book and pointed out something that's not true. The guy did too good a job. I think we'll be better off as a people, as a civilization, if we come to accept the fact that sometimes horrible things happen, and what you have to do is accept the fact and move on. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like and subscribe and share. Please consider a paid subscription. If you want to contact me, I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm also up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. The address there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. That's aureliancolumn.substack.com. You can send me direct messages there if you wish to reach me. I do also have a fundraiser going both online and offline for new equipment so I can get back into video production, which a lot of people want me to do. All of these podcasts are now available up on YouTube. Okay, from the very beginning when I reactivated things in 2023 to now, they're all up on YouTube if you want to go listen there. And I will plan on being up on other platforms, but I would much prefer to have video going up as opposed to just audio in those departments. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, keep reading. Good day.